welcome to Saturday Matters. Okay, Noel, go ahead.
Morning all, Ohio goes Mas. I'm Noel Chrisman, I'm an anthropologist. And you'll get to see some anthropology in this talk. I'm planning on giving maybe one or more talks next year about cross-cultural health. But today I thought I would talk about us. I've stolen from Hillary Clinton and others the notion that she talked about, that it takes a village to raise a kid. As I thought about this talk, I decided that it also takes a village to sustain us at the other side of that stretch between being a baby and not being at all. So, as you guys remember, Linda and Kay showed us a picture of baboons up a tree, demonstrating that we primates live in groups. And that's true for the Cercopithecus, that were the baboons, and for apes, and I think even for the old-fashioned ones like lemurs. Old-fashioned meaning they've been around for a long time.
It's good.
So we are who we are because of groups. And the reason for this, there's several reasons for this picture. One is that it shows us a couple 100,000 years ago in a group. That's the way we get along as primates. But it shows us some other things too, some of which is about anthropology. For example, on the lower left of that screen, oh, look at that, here. Those are the stone tools that archaeologists, which is part of anthropology, archaeologists like to dig up our trash. And our trash is quite useful for understanding who we were and how that relates to today. Another part of this picture that tells us something about anthropology is what they look like. And that's really a cool story. This is an early depiction of the way we used to think about Neanderthal people. And you guys will remember that. Remember, the Neanderthals were the ones that aren't as good as we are. Well, recent genetic and genomic research has pointed out that there really are not very many differences. And you'll be happy to know that all of us have a big bunch of Neanderthal genes running around in our cells. It also tells us about archaeology, physical anthropology, and cultural anthropology, which is what I am. We can see that, there's a major male, there's a kid, there's a wife. She's working. So we get some cultural anthropology as well. But remember, this is a stereotypic picture, and the Neanderthals might have looked like this, but I doubt it. So we have some fossil evidence to show that, as the archaeologists and physical anthropologists dug up all the stuff that they dig, found that there were grave goods with people, and that people got pretty old. Now, old in those days was probably 35 or 40. So there was that kind of information. As we changed over time, 10,000, 8,000 years ago, and we began to engage in horticulture and agriculture, then seniors were still important, and we can find out about them both in prehistory and history. As I thought about this the other day, those seniors in those days got to be the priests. And they spent a lot of time trying to make sure that religion would maintain them in power. Then we get to today. What happened to our power? So, given that, I wonder how we humans who get old, how are we doing in getting along? Well, remember, we're still part of human groups. This picture is a bunch of people from a village outside Chiang Mai in northern Thailand, and what they're doing is listening to the community health nursing students who have just done a health assessment. But the key thing is that these are elders, and they are together, adapting to society. And in this case, they are sitting in a temple or a shrine, which is another important way that we humans survive as elders. Elders play an important part in a bunch of aspects of life today. In this particular case, we're in southern Thailand, where most of the 5% Muslim population lives. And these two grandmas are taking care of a baby in that sling thing, demonstrating, that we have the value of taking care of kids. Now, I was thinking this morning about my Cambodian friends. You'll hear a lot about them, this Cambodian shirt. That the ones I know who have grandchildren are living by themselves. And they see and take care of their grandchildren by driving to the grandchildren's house. So we're not seeing, in this case, an extended family, but rather still grandmas are still taking care of kids. But they have to, at least in the case of my Cambodian friends who are old enough for grandchildren, they have to take a trip. But we elders also participate in society more generally. So here are a couple of ideas. We do work. I don't know that anybody in here is still working. I have a volunteer job, and I imagine that some, oh yeah, I know, some of you work in food banks, libraries, grammar schools, blah, blah. So we work. This is a picture of Cambodian seniors who are not working in a restaurant. In this case, they're working in one of the local nonprofits. Oh, this is in a senior housing area. And what they're doing is making a really interesting Cambodian lunch. It's a crepe stuffed with a chicken mixture. But the interesting part for me was that you get the crepe on the plate, and then you go to the table and pick out one or more of 5 different kinds of leaves. And then use the leaves like a wrap. Or you can just, I was watching a friend of mine eat her leaves, and she rolled it up and dipped it into a sauce and chomped away at leaves. And I thought, oh my gosh, there's a cultural pattern until I remembered we do the same thing with those wraps. Bingo into the leaves. So we're not so much different, I think. We also play. Anybody see yourself? So I've watched Johanna run one of those sing-alongs, but I've never seen the tricyclists. So are you guys still going out?
Yes.
Okay. Well, this is what you looked like at some time in the past. And it's one that has stuck in my mind for the whole 6 months that I've been here. And we eat. This is one of the few times when I've eaten dinner here. And you can see that I have chosen to sit with people who are my elders and my betters. But that makes sure that I can learn from the wisdom. Remember, we still have some wisdom, even though we don't count. It's the same as we might have in the past in the Neolithic. Anyway, here's me with a group of older people. I can see Al right from, sitting in the middle. And now the other picture is Cambodian elders in Southwest Youth and Family Services building in West Seattle. And these guys are eating also. You'll see more of them in a minute. So let's shift to who we are in kind of broad strokes. Guess what, gang? We're getting to be more of the population, a greater percentage of the population than we have been in the past. By 2050, we will be maybe almost 25% of the American population. And our numbers will have increased almost 50%. So we might be old, we might move more slowly, but we're getting to be a pretty big bunch. So what are we going to do with all these folks? there must be something, you know, we don't want to warehouse them because we used to do that. Maybe there's some ways for the villages to be available to us to age successfully. Age in place in some cases, age here in other cases. Anyway, that's now we're going to explore what to do with all of these old folks. And extended families are an important part of what has been true in the past, and as we'll see, continues to be somewhat true in the future. So this is the Hasuike family. Mr. Hasuike is a staff member in the administration of Ishikawa Prefectural Nursing University, just outside of Kanazawa, Japan. And I think I saw Amelia come in. She used, yes, there you are back in the back. Used to live in Kanazawa, or at least ran around in Kanazawa. So you can see in this one, oops, there's Mrs. Hasuike, the other Mrs. Hasuike, and the kids. Here, Grandma Hasuike, Dad Hasuike, and I forgot his name. Now, one of the stereotypes about anthropology has to do with the Navajo. People used to say, who lives in a Navajo hogan? And the statement was that there's a grandparent generation, the kid generation, lots of cousins, lots of kids, lots of grandchildren, and an anthropologist. So here you have the Hasuike family and their own private anthropologist. So we have fewer extended families. Where are we going to put all those people? All those people, by the way, is us. So as you know, a common way for us to be housed is with a spouse or by ourselves, and we'll see what the distribution of that looks like in a minute. There have been a lot of changes over the last century, so that we're more likely to be in smaller groups. The last sentence of this quote caught my interest. The evolution of living situations is shaped by practical, financial, and cultural factors. Let's explore that for a second. The cultural factors we'll see in a bar graph in a minute are Latinos and Asians, and to some extent African Americans, are more likely to live in extended families or maybe extended neighborhoods, where grandma has a house in the neighborhood and then her kids live nearby and with their children. So perhaps some of you people have seen that. One of my friends and former students and anthropologists studied older African Americans here in Seattle and found that pattern of mama in one place and then everybody else nearby. In that same village in northern Thailand, you see the same thing where the headman has his own house and then builds houses around. One of my friends had a place up on Lopez, and his kids had houses around. So cultural factors have an effect on where we are. Of course, financial factors. Not everybody is as rich as we are and can stay in such nice surroundings. But we do have Social Security and Medicare. They help. The most interesting part of that quote is the practical. I remember a report a few years ago that pointed out that grandmas don't necessarily want to live with their kids and grandkids. They're noisy little rugrats, you know. And as we all know here, we really value our time by ourselves. We enjoy the quiet. So there's a practical reason why not everybody lives in an extended family. So here, for you science guys, here we got some science. 20 years out of date, but I'll bet it's not too off. So first off, the red and the blue. Red is the living with a spouse. Blue is living by yourself. So you can compare the women blues, living by themselves, with the men blues, That's probably why we die so soon. We get tired of being by ourselves. And then compare the, we red people, we are so smart. We make sure that we've got someone around to take care of us. The women are doing pretty well. Now let's look at the orangey color. That's the living with other people, other in your family. That's the extended family. And you'll notice that it's more likely that, for the women anyway, that they're living in extended families. Now the thing that I didn't see, I've been using this original show is for a government office here in Seattle called Aging and Disability Services. And so I used this, but I didn't pay a lot of attention to what it was. But guess what I found the other day? Green.
Yeah.
Woo, tiny greens. Guess who's green? Us! We're the ones living with the non-relatives. How do you like that being a minority, huh? Our numbers might be bigger, but we are a tiny bunch of where people live. So as I thought through these demographic changes, and as I looked at my own history, because you'll have to hear a bunch about me in a minute, I thought, how is it that we are taking care of the elders? My research, maybe that's what the next slide is. No. So one way I thought of was that perhaps it takes a village. Probably not this village. This is in Kanazawa also. It's a samurai village. The samurai were important actually from about the 15th or 16th century, but the one in Kanazawa was evidently just the 17th to the 19th century. You know what this is now? Condos. I thought that was really cool. So here's some of my research. Things that have led me to pay attention to seniors and how we get along in this world. So my research in the 60s was with European immigrants. And what I discovered was that, at least the ones, I was studying Danish Americans because my family is Danish, that there were two big ways that they organized themselves once they came to the United States in the 19th century. One was in the church, Lutheran church, and the other was voluntary associations. And in essence, never the twain shall meet. The voluntary association people, heathens all, preferred not to be with the Lutherans. And I never found a Lutheran, so I don't know what they think. So what I found was that these immigrants joined together in voluntary associations and made really good friendships that lasted over a long period of time in social networks, and that's where support came from. There was one guy, and I studied two Danish voluntary associations. One of the guys was an alcoholic. When he went to a party, the other people from his same voluntary association, Danish Brotherhood, made sure that there were non-alcoholic drinks. One guy had a wife with bad arthritis. So they made, his social network made sure that he had invitations to other people's houses and therefore got that kind of support. So we can see the beginnings of how do you take care of the elders. In the 1990s, I was doing some research with a friend of mine on the Yakima Reservation. We were looking at older women and their use of pap smears. And we had some National Institute of Health funding for this. And the women were not so interested in pap smears. They were not interested particularly in cervical cancer. They were interested in contributing to their communities and participating in the spiritual life of the community. So there again, the people were involved with each other and were supportive of each other. In the 2000s, I was part of a I don't know, 12 or 15-year project funded by the CDC to look at chronic illness. We were in Seattle, we were looking at diabetes. And we found that by offering tailored health intervention or health activities to people, that we were able to help these seniors take care of their diabetes and not get worse. But the coolest thing about this project was that I think we were successful because we worked with local organizations. We would decide, we would develop the kinds of activities that were useful, teach the church, teach the voluntary association, teach the senior center, teach the nonprofit organization how to take care of their own people. So there we can use, this was CDC, we can use that kind of science in order to do what I think is important for taking care of seniors. So my experience and what I want to talk about today, this of course is all about me, is to look at senior centers, in my case, a temple, small ethnic organizations, and what I'll call neighborhood groups. And this is the funnest part of the talk for me because it's my story. It's where I have gone to do fun things in my career. So back to Thailand, I was lucky enough in 2003 and 2004 to spend some time mostly in northern Thailand, but also in the center in Bangkok and in the south. So you already saw one of the south pictures. So here we are in a community center outside of a town in northern Thailand. And we can learn some stuff from what we're seeing. So here, exercise. How many of you come down here and do your exercises? What is that, 3 times a week? See, you're doing the same stuff as they do in Thailand. And how about this? How many of you eat? Good work. Those who don't put your hands up, you're going to get skinny. And how many of you like to get together and BS? I sure do. So here we have stuff in northern Thailand where the community health students have gathered together, the seniors, in order to provide some health education. One of my favorite shots. The students were talking about good health habits. And the main one they stressed was, guess what? Don't smoke. In fact, I was on another, what was it? I think this was NIH on smoking cessation. So you don't want to smoke. So they were in the middle of their talk, and this lady boisterously laughed. And she pointed out, oh, there's no need to point because you can only see her. But it's fun to use the pointer. Any of you guys take your pointer and make the dog run around? That's really fun. One of the better uses of a pointer. Now, this woman, she said she was the oldest in the room. She'd been smoking since she was a little girl. And she pulled out first one of those cigarettes. Second, another one. Third, still another from her purse. Now, if you've been working in public health, you know that there's always the person who said, you know, Grandpa died at 90 after smoking this is a story I told a bunch of seniors in Oregon one time. I actually told it to the men's table and made Stan the center of this story. So we'll keep Stan as the center of the story. Stan had just turned 100 like he did last year. And the journalist from the local paper came out to interview Stan. They sat on the front porch in rocking chairs, of course, and chatted. The interviewer asked Stan, 100 years old, well, how do you explain your being here for so long? He said, well, I didn't ever smoke, didn't ever drink, and I did not run around with women. All of a sudden, a chair came out the window onto the veranda with a bunch of shouting and broken plates, all kinds of stuff going on inside. The journalist said to Stan, "Stan, what's that?" He said, "Oh, that's just my dad. He always says that when he's drunk." Stan would do that kind of thing. So let's hop from Thailand to Tokyo. St. Luke's used to be college now. St. Luke's University, Nursing University, is in the section of Tokyo right near Tsukiji, which is the old fish market. Those of you like Rosie and Fred who've lived in Tokyo may remember that part. Anyway, they got a government grant to work on the whole ward where St. Luke's is. And they worked with health promotion, disease prevention, all the way from 4 and 5-year-olds up through elders, through seniors. They either rented or bought a building. You can see the front door. And within it was a well-stocked library of resources for people to teach health promotion, disease prevention. There was this, kind of utility closet with the kinds of equipment that you need for teaching promotion prevention. So here we are in Tokyo. What's inside on the 4th floor? Guess who goes up there and guess what they're doing? Kind of looks like what y'all do down here, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Some of those exercises are sitting in a chair. And if you were to go to either the South Park Senior Center or the Pike Market Senior Center, where I'm on their boards, you would see the same thing. So there's really not much difference between these Japanese seniors and us. They just have darker hair and different faces. And guess what? You might want to compare this with what's right at the back of the room. Now, I imagine these people, of course, would have had better nutrition. Not cookies. I didn't get one.
Want me to bring you one?
No thanks. I'm saving. No, I purposely chose not to do it. What was that? Altruism. No, it's probably an accident. Now we're in another part of Tokyo where these seniors are aiming at the temple or the shrine. So you're seeing the special community center for seniors and the seniors being taken to the shrine. How about if we pop up to northern Japan, to Yuzawa Town? Yuzawa Town is in Niigata Prefecture, and in the summer is a great summer resort for people to spend time, and in the winter, which is when I was there, it's a major ski place for all of Japan. So they have a senior center. Here it is. Ta-da. The Bistro Bunch, 7:30 in the morning, may well recognize this kind of a table full of old people chatting. Now, what you don't have is a public health nurse right there. And you also don't have, you know what those are? Hospital beds. I bet you that you don't know, and I certainly don't, a senior center in the United States, of which there are tens of thousands of senior centers, but not all of them are hooked to a hospital. So think about that. Bistro Bunch, public health nurse, hospital. In addition, they were right close to a pool, and they had this kind of, the kind of exercise where the water holds you back, provides the back pushing. The orange hats are the volunteers who are there to be supportive of the seniors who are doing their work. One of the people in here, one of the exercisers was on the health board. He was disabled from a stroke. And so he was, taking advantage of this same kind of service that the senior center provided here in Uzawa Town. Someday I'll have to show you how beautiful and interesting Uzawa Town is. So, senior centers. Senior centers, I have a list, and I decided not to, I couldn't figure out how to get it into a slide, and I decided not to print it out, but I asked the executive director of the Pike Market Senior Center about our partners between Pike Market Senior Center and others. That list had about 20 people, 20 organizations on it. So this is a central organization, Pike Market Senior Center, and a bunch of partners that make sure that there's a lot of variety, a lot of resources available to the senior center. Senior centers are everywhere they exist, important sources of support, nutrition, exercises, as you've seen in all of these cross-cultural senior centers. What's really cool is that the participants in senior centers have a higher level of health. They have greater personal satisfaction. They have great opportunities for social interaction. And just last Monday at the South Park Senior Center, I filled out the questionnaire, that gives the government the data so that they can say those things about how well we're doing if we are part of a senior center. Now, there's a subtext to what I'm doing here. You should also be able to hear the stuff that I'm talking about cross-culturally and about different kinds of organizations, all of which happens here, right? There's exercise, there's food, all of these things. Well, we'll see one thing that doesn't exist, which is dancing. So here's the Pike Market Senior Center. The bulletin board is just like, well, it's a little bit more messy than our bulletin board next to the elevators, but a bulletin board nonetheless. And that's my picture. The rest of these pictures I got from the senior center. So as we know, food, no dancing, too bad. Exercise, fun, time for people to get together and enjoy the sociability that senior centers provide across the country. We've heard both of the Pike, in this room, both the Pike Market Senior Center and the Wallingford Senior Center, and I've only been here 6 months, so I don't know if there have been some other such visits. South Park Senior Center. By the way, both of these senior centers, the Pike Market Senior Center draws from people in downtown Seattle. So an extraordinarily poor, vulnerable population. A couple of years ago, it was 40 or 50% homeless people. Now it's only about 30. And we at Pike Market Senior Center expend our energy, our money, for something like 5 social workers, 3 of whom are spending most of their time helping the homeless people become housed. And then the rest of the time, the rest of our population are very low income and tend to live in low income housing. We have people, the social workers, go to the low income housing and provide services to those people as well. So now, South Park. South Park is probably the poorest neighborhood in Seattle. I know that many of you come from someplace else. I had never heard of South Park after being here for about 30 years until I began, my ex-wife was working down there with CMAR, a Latino health agency. And then Seymour later showed up in the Reach 2010 bunch. Remember, we worked with local health clinics. At any rate, here's South Park. Monday nights are Cambodians, and others. Wednesday nights are Latinos and others. Friday nights are Vietnamese, and not many others, because the Vietnamese people are a very big bunch and they take up all the tables. My students 20 years ago helped set that up at the South Park Senior Center. There was a Vietnamese man who was central in staffing this tiny senior center in South Park. Maybe 8 or 10 seniors from the neighborhood would go in, and this one woman, Liz, I think her name was, did the cooking, so she offered food, did the cooking in her own kitchen. She had an astounding budget from the city of Seattle. $200 a month. Maybe a year, I can't remember, just almost no money. Now, that thing just grew like topsy. And you know, we serve around 50 people on each of those nights. Excellent food. The chef, who was just off for 6 weeks because she broke her arm, searches the internet and provides us with Cambodian food frequently on Mondays, Latino food, Latin American food frequently on Wednesdays, and Vietnamese food frequently on Fridays. So what did we do there? Well, one thing, I don't remember whether the Vietnamese do this very much, but boy, the Cambodian people love to get lined up and have a picture taken. And remember, we talked about the disproportion of males and females. Less so in this bunch. Let's see. Not a whole hell of a lot of males. At any rate, you can see 2 males. White-haired Noel back there. And you can't tell that my friend Kim is bald. But you'll see him in a minute. You can see his bald head. I might be the oldest person at that senior center, and Kim, he's only 2 years younger than I am. And he's a great guy. So we're there just surrounded by women. Too bad. He's married, has a great wife, Sophia. By the way, in this picture, there are four Vietnamese women, in addition to all the Cambodian women. And then here we are, even though Cambodia is a Buddhist country, and as far as I know, all of my friends in the South Park Senior Center are Buddhist, except for one who's Mormon. Anyway, here we are. The women got gussied up. The men sort of get gussied up, but the women are excellent at it, and got their picture taken. And here's this one man taking the picture. And me, of course. So, we celebrate every year in April. It's Cambodian New Year. It is at the same time as the Thai New Year. And I think that the Cambodians throw either rice or salt at each other, but it's even better in Cambodia. They throw water at each other on their New Year. So here's a spread of traditional Cambodian foods, flowers, and other things destined for the spirit world. And what else? Aha! Constant dancing at the Cambodian seniors there at South Park Senior Center. Yesterday, you'll hear about another group called Kakwa. Yesterday, we got to dance also. So it's dancing is a big deal. And we dance I say we because I don't look or sound, I can't talk Khmer. Anyway, I love dancing with my colleagues at the Senior Center. They dance in a circle for the most part. I am thinking about how to get a bunch of Cambodian women in their traditional outfits to come here and demonstrate the dance that they do, and that we do every Monday. So there they are. This guy and I like to talk about whether there were any men there that night. Usually there are just a few of us. Here are another bunch of women. These two, this one and this one, have been friends in the United States for something like 30 years. So these relationships last long. And now they have a way of getting together. And South Park Senior Center is one of the ways for these Cambodian people to get together, eat Cambodian food, talk Khmer, and enjoy each other's company, and dance. Oh, here we go. The guy in the middle is not a senior. But he's evidently there with grandma, and you can see that everybody can be included. This guy, I only chose this picture to show because I think it's so cute. But there is a way of pretending that I meant to do this. So here's a future senior trying to sneak his way in to the dance floor and the place where the food is eaten. The reason why that's an outside wall is because the neighborhood center, which is where the senior center meets, is an old firehouse. So evidently they built this extra room, giant room, including a great kitchen, a little room that's essentially a greenhouse, and then a basement in that building that has been a clothing bank in the past. On Thursdays and Saturdays, I think it's a food bank in the building. And for a while, they had the boxing club downstairs. So this neighborhood center houses a great deal of the supporting organizations that exist in South Park. This is also a Monday night, Cambodian night, and here are all the American guys sitting together. And you can see, I have forgotten this guy's name. Anyway, he's got his cane. The reason why this guy goes is because he's friends with that guy. And this guy lives in the same boarding house as that guy. So as I say, the senior center provides a place for people to have the relationships with each other. Here's the church. Here's good old Kim without his hat on. This is at the Buddhist temple on Beacon Hill. And this particular day was a Saturday. The service Saturday at 9 was for Seniors Day, Elders Day. That's why I was invited to go because guess what? I'm a senior too. So this is Kim, who made it a family day. The flowers are there to celebrate Kim for being the leader of this family. The women sitting over here include his daughter, and I think that's Sophia, and I don't know who this is. This woman, oh, now take a look at her kind of pinkish, lavenderish outfit. Anyway, the woman, I haven't figured out what role she plays, but here she is at the temple, and then yesterday she was in charge of food for the Kakwa event. Oh, and then this guy, that's Kim's son, who's gigantic. Here's the interior of the Buddhist temple. Here, these are rice pots, and part of the ceremony is for each of us to get some rice and start to fill up those bowls so that the monks will have something to eat. On this side are the women getting set up for the food. It's kind of a buffet. And everybody, lots of the women bring food. This is a shot toward the back of the room where the three monks sit. So CACWA, Cambodian American Community Council of Washington, is a small nonprofit. I think that they have been in existence maybe 5 years or 6 years or something like that. They are an amazing organization. This picture is from the upper level at Southwest Youth and Family, where they gather in comfortable surroundings and listen to health messages. The two that I've seen, one was on TB and one was on diabetes. Then when they're done with that, bingo! And I didn't put a bingo slide in, I don't know why. Anyway, I have a hard time with bingo no matter what. I get nervous. I can't find the darn number. And you know, then I worry about losing the little bead. So it's just a stressful time for me to play bingo, and I try to avoid it. In this case, it's easy because they do it in Khmer. I can't understand a word of it. And then if you win, if you get a bingo, the prize, what was it, 2 weeks ago, was dishwashing soap. So it's a supportive organization. And you've already, So then downstairs in the lower level, you've already seen this picture or a similar one, are the seniors who've gotten together and they have lunch. But before lunch, that's the digital teaching. So a couple weeks ago, they were teaching how to use an iPad. The other day, they were teaching how to organize photographs or how to create a digital movie out of photographs. One day, they were teaching about how to use the internet. They have a kind of bingo also. In this case, the bingo sheet are the icons for various apps. And so she rolls the thing, picks it up, and says, Google. And then if you've got Google on your picture thing, you put your thing down. And the prizes here, I mean, somebody got a box of, with some kind of a grill. I mean, they're fancy prizes. I don't think they do that often. So here is the learning digital stuff. One of those days, they were doing Cambodian crafts. They were learning how to make paper flowers, where one of the flowers is a particular symbol in Cambodia. Aha! Me! You couldn't predict that, could you? Get an egotist up here. I have a captive audience, and here's my certificate. Because I would sign on the sheet. So they just look at who was there that day. And I've been going there for 2 or 3 months. Anyway, here's my digital certificate. For only $100, I'll let you touch mine. Okay, we talked about a Cambodian, we talked about South Park Senior Center for Cambodians. And you've just learned about CACWA, the Cambodian American Community Council. And I mentioned that they do the digital teaching. They also have a grant from the Small Business Association at the federal level to help Cambodian small businesses get started. So they're really spread out. I mean, they do individuals. They do 2 or 3 other kinds of teaching, and I just don't remember what it was. But this is a spectacular organization. So Neighborhood House, those of us in Seattle may have heard of Neighborhood House. I, of course, have because of my work in public health, because Neighborhood House is nearly ubiquitous in providing services for people across the city and county who are in need of help. So Neighborhood House evidently invited CACWA to do a New Year's ceremony at Neighborhood House this last April. So ubiquitous food. Of course the women want to get gussied up in their Cambodian outfits. Here's everybody eating. There they are dancing. You can kind of see the circle. You can certainly see how dressed up they are. By the way, one of the women in this picture has, for the last couple of months, has been wearing a stocking cap. And I wasn't sure why. But then she took it off one day and she had almost no hair. So I think she must have had chemotherapy. very supportive. She goes with the same 2 or 3 women to South Park. She's here at Neighborhood House, and I've seen her at the temple. So you're getting this picture of Cambodians being able to go here and here and here, and in many cases they are the same people, because I get to know them a little bit. The women here, that picture's just there because I think it's so cute. But 2 of these women, this one, were there yesterday, so they must have gotten their certificates as well. So, you know, it's this ubiquitous bunch of places to go. Aha! You already have memorized that the Cambodian ladies, the seniors, like to get together in their outfits. Now, guess what we have? Me! This is my men's group. More than 40 years we've been getting together Friday mornings for breakfast. Here we are in Hoodsport at the Model T Tavern. We go to the Hood Canal. We used to go to Lopez Island, but for these 40 years we've been doing this in the spring. So we try to have hamburgers at the Model T when we go. Here we are in Tainan, which is a city in southern Taiwan, in a neighborhood called Anping. And I have a photograph in the art show. It's also a photograph from Anping. Here, my friend who moved away, leaving me bereft of my partner for Friday night dinners. Anyway, she moved to Michigan in order to be with her kids. Here's Grandma taking care of kids. Here's Nana. So she needed to find stuff to do in Spring Lake, and she's a big crafter and quilter. So she quickly joined a craft group at the church. So here she calls them the CCLs, the crafty church ladies. Here are the crafty church ladies who, they work on crafts sometimes. In this case, they're making apple pies that they will sell at a bake sale. So these are the neighborhood groups that this is really smaller, but still a way of getting people together. Now, I don't have a picture of this, but I know the Cambodians do the same thing. Because one of my friends, one of the Cambodian women friends, has sent me a picture of hands with new nail polish. They have nail parties. There was going to be one last Tuesday, but one of the women couldn't go. So it's not just men, not just my friends, that are getting together in tiny little things. Are you hearing a network? Or you're hearing not just the national Social Security and Medicare, but the local. The way to be with people on their own terms. In the case of the Cambodians, they are Khmer people. That's their ethnicity. Their language is Khmer. Their nationality is Cambodian. They come from all over the country. There was one time in the South Park Senior Center, there was a game to see where people had come from. They came from all over Cambodia. Lots of these women are either has no father or no husband because of the murder that took place during the killing fields by Pol Pot and the Khmer Rouge. So they've got a lot in common. They are just like this bunch here, very big upon smiling, laughing, having a really good time. So remember, the subtext is that we are doing the same stuff here in University House. So one of the nights a couple days ago after I had been practicing this, I thought, what would happen if we could pull these villages together? If we could make some kind of a village level network that might be able to go for more funding. Certainly be able to take care of more seniors. I woke up in the morning and realized, got it. It's just a beginning. This is the second year of the second 4-year period of the Veteran Seniors and Human Services Levy that connects a big bunch of the senior centers. Each senior center can become a hub. South Park is related to Asian Counseling and Referral, Chinese Information and Service Center, and the Filipino one, the name of which I can't remember. And as I've already said, Pike Market is connected. I don't know how many of these are part of the hub, but you know, something 20 organizations. This thing is called Vishizzle. I used to think it was a joke, but even the professionals use Vishizzle. It's sort of like asking Asian speakers to not mix up L and R. So we do have the beginning of this. Now, one of the questions that I hope you'll ask is, what can I do? We got all this stuff going on, senior centers, nonprofits, Buddhist temples, blah, blah, blah. What can I do? Well, some of you already volunteer doing things, and so if you have the energy and the stamina, you may want to volunteer. I can hook you up with the person who is in charge of that at both, you know what, I really am running out of time, but luckily I'm almost done. You can talk to the people who recruit volunteers. The other thing you can do is you can use some of the money that you normally give for supporting public activities, so you can volunteer your funding. Now I can say thank you in a bunch of languages. Hakun, that's in Cambodian. Arigato gozaimasu in Japanese. Shisha in Mandarin. And Kapkun Plap in Thai. So thank you. Questions are...
So thank you, Noel, for sharing yours. Anyone else want to ask a question or make a comment?
Barbara over here. Yeah, lights.
Where is South Park?
South Park is bounded on one side by the Duwamish River. If you go across the Duwamish, you get to Georgetown. Close by is Boeing Field, where you know the airport is. Let's see. I guess that's the best way to explain it. Duwamish, Boeing is across the way, and Georgetown. So it's in the south. It's right at the edge of the city of Seattle. In fact, part of South Park is in the county.
Well, I didn't do much homework before I moved in here. I had set things in motion to sell a house before I had a place to go. And everything clicked and I got a place to live. But I thought I was moving into an apartment. And it didn't dawn on me early on, I was moving into a community.
Oh, I have a friend, another anthropologist, who lived in one of these senior places for a while because her husband was chronically ill. After he died, then she moved into another condo complex. And she had become accustomed to the community aspect of the senior living place where she had been in Portland. And so the last time I saw her a couple years ago, she was working with others to try and create community somehow in this relatively large building that houses condos.
Yeah.
The condo I just moved from did not have that feeling. It was mostly students who rented the condos. There were only 5 owners living in that building of 16 units.
Okay, Don.
There's another village concept that I was involved in, run by the Greenwood Senior Center, which is something like helping elders age in place with help from the communities.
Yeah.
I was deeply involved in that. It saved my life for the last 10 years before I moved here.
Yeah, and if you think about that, the aging in place bunch of people throughout Seattle and King County do get together. There's an agency, I think. You may have been even working with them to help in aging in place. And I think that the ideas that come from that way of thinking have had an effect on both of the senior centers where I work.
Now, I majored in anthropology and sociology. Really fascinating.
Very high quality woman.
Yeah. And I learned that the so-called traditional American nuclear family is a real anomaly in human history. It's not how most of us lived through, it was mostly family groups. Anyone else have a comment?
One of the types of groups that many seniors get connected with are some of the community centers like Lions Club, which I have been a member of. We just celebrated 100 years here in Seattle. It used to be that we could recruit all sorts of younger people. Anymore, it's mostly a bunch of us old-timers getting together and looking at what kinds of projects can we take on.
Yeah, thank heaven for you guys. My dad was a Lion. Now the thing about that is that as we are seeing in other parts of our society, lots of stuff that are normal for us, we've gone past it. You know, people don't join this and this and this. Instead, they do other things. And the thing that's most worrying is that people are doing the community stuff online, which means they're not together.
Right.
And the South Park board meets by Zoom. Just drives me nuts. And we're trying to get the Pike Market board back to Pike Place Market, but some continue to use Zoom, which is distressing. Al's ready again.
Yeah.
Well, an awful lot of the volunteer groups are aging out.
Yeah.
I belong to a trail building group. And
What kind?
trail building.
Oh, yeah.
And we could not recruit new people, and we even had a guy working on the Iron Goat Trail. I don't want any new people. I got a little group that does what I want them to do. And I went to the online Washington Butterfly Association's meeting, and just for the hell of it, I said, how many people here of about 40 are 40 years old or younger? One person said, I just turned 40.
Wow.
But you know, that's a problem for volunteer groups all over.
Was it Bob Dylan who's got times they are changing?
Oh, okay.
Really changed their mind.
I thought you had it. Okay. I see a hand up. I see another hand up. Here, I'm coming, Gail.
Who's lived in Japan?
Yeah. The comment about differences really struck me yesterday when I was talking with my sister about the Mexican family asylum seekers now for 11 years from Mexico, and they're having a hard time paying their rent. And my sister said, how many rooms are in the house? I said, 3. It's a family of parents and 2 children. Younger boy, now 12, born in Miami, so an American citizen, and his 2 older sisters were little girls when the family crossed the border from El Paso to, Juarez to El Paso. And next thing Linda says is, well, my daughter-in-law Tabitha grew up in Rio. She lived until she left in her 20s in one room with her 2 younger brothers. Why not put the 3 children in one room and rent out a room? Now, I don't think that Tabitha's family was unusual. They took that as that was the way some people lived. They didn't have room to put Tabitha in one room and the 2 boys in another room. And I was really struck by that in terms of living situations here in the United States and in other countries. Thank
we
you
have-
very much for the whole talk.
Yes.
We have a Mexican family who are our old friends, and for a while when they were renting, they had a one-bedroom apartment, and the kids got the bedroom and the parents slept in the living room. One time we went over there and they had a bunch of aunts and uncles living in the living room, so that may have been 4 or 5 folks spread out across some sofa beds, and I can't remember where everybody was, but everybody was comfortable.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Al. This is really great.